If you're somebody who really wants to make a real change in the world, you can't make change by walking the well-walked pathways of life. You cannot just drive on the roads that the system created, because the system is not going to facilitate any kind of revolutionary substantive change to that system, because by definition a system seeks to reaffirm its own hegemony, seeks to hold on to power and serve the interests of those who are at the helm of the system. So oftentimes, or usually, when we're growing up, our vision for our own future looks a lot like these roads that society has built for us. These legible pathways, these legible careers, like go to university, become a doctor, go to university, become an engineer, climb the corporate ladder, get a job at Google, start as a software engineer number 3, go to a number 2, number 1. You see, like, it becomes very calculated, it becomes very legible, very measurable. When the second you realize that you're walking a pathway in life which is facilitated by the system, know that you're not facilitating any change to the system. Because, as I said, by definition, the system does not facilitate its own change. You kind of have to go off-road. You're going to have to make decisions that aren't very legible. You're going to have to, the way your life is going to look like is going to look a little bit crazy. There's this quote by George Bernard Shaw. He's an Irish playwright, and he said, reasonable men adapt themselves to their surrounding circumstances, and unreasonable men adapt their surrounding circumstances to themselves, and that all progress depends upon unreasonable men. So what does he mean by reasonable men and unreasonable? Like, the way he's describing it is that reasonable men, they see the pathways in life, they see the roads that are built with mile markers, with white dotted lines, and they drive on those roads. They adapt themselves to their circumstances. They go get the PhD, they go get the 9-to-5 job, they go get married at a normal age, and they have kids, and that's all their life ends up being. Whereas an unreasonable person, rather than adapting himself to his surroundings, letting himself become a product of his environment, makes his environment a product of himself. I think that's what, I'm just remembering it now. Jack Nicholson, The Departed. I'm not a product of my environment. My environment is a product of me. He says it in like a very badass way, right? I think that's the intro of The Departed. Great movie, by the way. So that's really like what he calls the difference between reasonable men and unreasonable. And then, like the way it starts, you think he's gonna say like, this is how you should be reasonable, and reasonable men are good and unreasonable men are bad. But no, he ends with saying like, all progress depends upon unreasonable men. There's a similar quote from Steve Jobs where he says, only the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are those that do. It seems like, lots of great Western thinkers, they just understand the ABCs of like how change happens in a society. Why? Because they've done it before. They've done it before. They've lived through the revolutions. The 18th and 19th and 20th centuries were all very revolutionary centuries where Western society underwent lots of social political changes. Of course, we as Muslims have the best of examples, right? When we look at the prophets, the stories of the prophets, if you read the stories of the prophets from a secular lens, like these Western thinkers are coming from, they would appear as unreasonable, right? When you read the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam destroying all the idols and making a fool of his own people who worship the idols, isn't that quite unreasonable from a secular perspective? They're just going to kill him. Of course, Allah made the fire cool. You look at the story of Ashab al-Ukhdud. They all jump into a fire, right? And the boy, before even they all jump into the fire, the boy who told the king, if you want to kill me, just say Bismi Rabbil Ghulam, just say in the name of the Lord of the boy, and you'll kill me. See, this seems quite unreasonable from a secular perspective, from a materialistic perspective, right? The West acknowledges that, and they say, okay, go be unreasonable. But for us as Muslims, it's very reasonable, because the calculus of a Muslim is very different. The Muslim has an akhirah-centric mindset, which should enable him to behave in a way that would seem unreasonable, which makes it all the more disappointing that we as Muslims are unfortunately very reasonable people, right? You look around and we're like sheep, living our 9 to 5s, spending our 2.5% at best in zakat, having our time for our family, having our time for our recreation. Everything's very balanced, deen and dunya balance, and we don't take the deen as seriously as we should. We don't subjugate ourselves to Islam as totally as we should. And this is really the crux of my message, is that when you understand that in order to achieve the revolutionary change that Islam has always come with every prophet, one must start with the goal and then take every step to that goal very seriously, not allowing their own personal desire. Like, there is no, this part of my life is Islam and this part of my life is my career. There is no such thing. If there's anything that you take away from my video, take that away. When a do something kind of person, a person who wants to leave an impact, decides their goal and then becomes fully animated by it. If you believe in that goal, like, for example, establishing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's laws over the earth, as is the mission of Islam. If you believe in that goal, you will become fully animated by that goal. You will fully subjugate yourself to that goal. You will become creative, sacrificing, hardworking, industrious, organizing, leadership, all those kinds of skills that you would be applying in your career in different dimensions, whether you're a mathematician, whether you're, a businessman, whatever or a teacher. You would be applying all that domain of human skill and resources towards that goal. And it might not look like a conventional career path. In fact, as I said, it will not look like a conventional career path. Don't try to make it look like one. For some people, it might look like one more than others, just out of circumstance. Just out of what makes sense for that person, and how best that person can contribute to the objective, right? It might make more sense for somebody who, I don't know, is uniquely suited to scientific research, very uniquely so, to do that. But maybe not. Maybe he's very strong in science, but also strong in other things that he's never explored before, because that's the kind of dominance hierarchy he latched himself onto as a child, as we discussed in the previous video. So the way to think, like I said, perhaps I'm repeating myself, start with the goal. Your purpose is to serve Allah. Sorry, something came up here. Your purpose is to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then you work backwards from that goal to what you should be doing in your life, and clear the table of any prior conclusion you have of what you should be doing. Throw out your degree, throw out your passion projects, throw all of that out for now. I'm not saying quit everything. You might decide that because these things are your passions, because they're your skills, that becomes one variable. It becomes one variable in a multivariate analysis of what you can best be doing to achieve the goal, right? Let me tell you a little bit more about myself. Like, I did math and science my whole life. But math and science isn't just about math and science. Math and science, or why I liked math and science, what skill sets it used in me, were like analytical skills, critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills, being able to take a problem and formalizing it and abstracting it and generalizing it, approaching it in a systematic way. That's what math is about, right? So the way I just described my mathematical skills isn't specific to math, right? You can apply that skill set to anything. You can apply that skill set to mobilizing people. You can apply that skill set to public speaking. You can apply that skill set to media, like I hope to be doing. So don't sell yourself short. Your skills and your passions might take a more abstract form that for your whole life, you've been applying it to one domain, right? Like, I don't know, if you're crazy about biology, what is it about biology that makes you crazy for it? Is it really like the specifics of cells and life and stuff like that, or is there something more abstracted that biology taps into, and other things could tap into that, right? I think for a lot of people, at least in math, like, they might have specific research interests, but like what does it for you in topology is gonna, calculus might do the same thing for you, linear algebra might do the same thing for you, computer engineering might do the same thing for you. Thinking about, history and trends in history also might do the same thing for you. Being a historian, for example, because all of it is analytical reasoning. So again, the wrong thing to do is to start with where you are right now, to start with what you like to do right now, and then trying to do a post hoc rationalization of why you should continue to do that. The right thing to do is to think about the goal, think about where the Ummah needs to be, think about, the end state of where you want the Ummah to be, and then think about not how best you can contribute to it, but what is most needed for the Ummah to reach that goal. Think about it. Okay, what does it take for the Ummah to have khilafah, the Ummah to be united? Okay, we need to influence public opinion. Okay, we need to create services for Muslims so that we can develop Muslims and strengthen Muslims. And so whatever it is, like, we need to make sure that the next generation, the younger children, don't lose their Islam and they remain firm, because keeping your ideology at a young age is important. So whatever it is that you converge upon, anyone who thinks about this problem is going to weight things a little bit differently. And the way you end up weighting these different, let's say, deliverables, these intermediate goals that will reach our end state that we all agree upon, the way you end up weighting them, you need to pay attention to that. Because that's going to be influenced by what you should actually be doing. Right now, this is how you're going to realize like what you need to be doing. Because now when you start thinking about what the Ummah needs, you start thinking about how we can reach the goal of unity, of desecularizing Islam, of reestablishing Khilafah, however you like to think about it. Once you think about how you're going to bring the Ummah back to its majesty and to its safety, then you're going to be thinking about all the different ways that we need to do to get there. And then you're going to get passionate. Because if you really believe in the goal, that passion for the goal is going to become translated to passion in that which achieves the goal. So for example, if you're very passionate about, you're very passionate about reuniting the Ummah, and you realize that to reunite the Ummah, we need to, let's say, educate young children about Islam. Right? You reach a conclusion, maybe by discussion with others, maybe by personal reflection, maybe through examples in history, that it's very important to get kids when they're very young and to enrich them Islamically. So now you're going to be very passionate about this goal. You're going to passionately think about every different piece of that goal. Then you're going to find a way for you to involve yourself in that goal. And then once you're involved in that goal, well, that objective has lots of different dimensions to it, right? You might be writing children's books, so that takes the writing skill set. You might write children's programs. You might write apps or whatever for kids, or parents perhaps, and that would be a programming skill set, right? You might make movies and television. Well, that takes filmography and a creative mindset. So notice how we started from the goal, we got to a conviction in one important aspect of the goal. That conviction allowed us to insert ourselves into that intermediate goal, no matter what our passion or skill set is. No matter what your passion or skill set is, there's a way for you to involve yourself in that intermediate goal, if you're convinced of that intermediate goal as being the most important, of helping kids, right? Because that's what you think is the most important thing for you to do. for us to do to achieve the unity of the Ummah. Okay? So I'll just end it there for now. I might make another video about this. There are lots of ideas here about this that could be explored further. But Assalamu alaikum for now.